day, so I think it's worth it to emphasize this. And you see here on the left, I cannot point it out, but you have the automated ML feature in Azure as well. So let's try to demo this. And yeah, I have it on the slide. Life is boring without risks. And I'm always like that, and I don't prepare screenshots or videos of my demos. And today might be the day that bites me in the, because 1.5 hours ago, my Azure credits ran out. I have 130 euros, trying to extend that, but I ran out. So I switched over to another environment. My employer has a Power BI environment. We have Power BI Premium, everything that I need, but I tried to quickly connect the dots, but it might be a little bit messy, so forgive me for that. So what we're going to do, we have an organization. Let's not do the survey. We have an organization, and it's, yeah. That's a good question. So do you need a Pro license, Power BI Premium capacity to do any of this? You need at least a Pro license, because we're going to work with workspaces and develop Power BI components. So then you need a Pro license. And actually the machine learning, the AutoML feature and the cognitive services features are based on the premium capacity. So you need that as well. And I have a slide that tells me a little bit more about that, so we will cover it more later on. So imagine that you're a hotel company and you have hotels all over the world, and you, as an analyst, you want to know if the online shoppers are going to, like online visitors, are they going to purchase anything? How can we improve that? Maybe see what pages they are on the website and try to predict if they are on certain pages for a certain duration, if they're going to purchase anything. And why are we going to do this? Because we want to give our web development team some insights, and maybe they can improve the website to have more people converge. Is that the English word? For more people make a purchase. So we have data, and I think I have it open. Can you see my screen? Yeah. So we have this data set, and it has a record for every visitor on the website. And it shows information about, for instance, if they are returning visitors or new visitors. Something about the date, if it was in the weekend, but most importantly, some statistical numeric data about how long they visited certain pages on the website. So we have categories of pages. We have administrative pages, informative, and product-related pages. And we see how many time they spent on those pages. And we have a revenue. That's important, of course. So the revenue is, did they purchase something or not? And the false is no, and the true is that they did purchase something. And there are true values here somewhere. And so we are going to learn a model based on this data. And how are we going to do that? Within Power BI, this feature, the automated machine learning, is available inside data flows. So we have a workspace here. I assume you know a little bit about Power BI. If you don't understand anything, if you don't understand the part of what I'm doing and where I'm now at, please ask me. This is the Power BI service. It's the online portal, and I'm logged in with my user account, and I have a workspace, a bunch of workspaces, but now I'm in this workspace. It's called Global AI Bootcamp. And if I go to the data flow section, we see one data flow that I already created, but I can add more. So we need to get the data in here. So we do that with the data flow. It's quite easy. And pick the one on the left to define new entities. And this data can be in any of these sources. There's a lot of different sources that are currently supported. Databases of all kinds, Azure Blob Storage, OData feeds, web data, it's all available. For my demo, I've got the data inside a blob storage that's available to me. So I will just copy paste the CSV file's location in the blob. And I'll press next. And Power BI will look up the file, see what it looks like, try to identify all the column data types, and it gives me a preview of the data. And this is all fine. So you see the same columns that I just demonstrated in Excel and the revenue column that we're going to predict. I'll specify this as a true or false column, and then the data is fine. So we can see, let's rename this online visitors and save and close. So far the demo is going well. And let's refresh the data immediately. It's not a lot of data, and it's on blob storage in Azure, so it will refresh quite soon. And then when it's refreshed, so let's take a look if it's already done. This is the one, right? Yeah. So it's done. The last refresh date is now. So let's go into the data flow again and create that model that we're going to create. So here is a button called Apply ML Model and Add a Model. So we have one entity available that we just created this table, right? And an entity is the same thing as a table, basically. And we have the revenue field that we want to train our model on. So that's the outcome field. It's a true or false field. If I click next, the engine of Power BI and the automated ML capability will try to see what kind of data type your historical column is. And this is a true or false column. So it says, okay, it's a binary prediction that you probably want to do. But if you want, you can select a bunch of other types of models. So right now, these three are available. And the regression is not highlighted because my data type column is not okay for this. But if I had a numeric column, we could have been able to select this. So the question is, what type of regressions are supported? I'm not entirely sure. So I think only linear, but maybe together after the session, we can find out. And this capability is in general availability, so it's live, it's production, but it only maybe 2-3 months ago got into that stage. So Microsoft is still investing a lot in this, and they're still opening up more model types. So I am really excited to have the forecasting model coming available. So I have had access to it in private preview, but it's not live yet. And that's really interesting as well, also for the analysts. So analysts are forecasting a lot of data usually. So that's something that could help them really. So we will stick to the binary prediction, and we want to predict the true outcomes. And true means purchase, no means no purchase. And these label will help in the report that Power BI generates. Okay, so the question is, can you back this up with an Azure subscription, or do you need the Power BI Premium subscription? Right, that's the question. This needs a Power BI Premium capacity, but it can be a premium capacity in Office or Power BI, or the Azure embedded capacity. If you enable that, and I can demonstrate how later on, it will come up, it will show up in the Power BI service just as a regular Power BI Premium capacity. So you can use it in the same way. Actually, I am now using the Azure version, and I don't see it in the UI. I mean, it works the same, but the Azure version, you can turn it off when you don't need it to save money. But there's a limitation that you can only use that version in dev test scenarios. So I'm not sure. Have you tested it? Okay. So comment is that you cannot purchase the one in Azure on an MSDN subscription. Okay, that's interesting. That will be a limitation, of course, then. But if you're in an organization with normal, regular Azure subscriptions, then you are able to purchase it. And yeah, unfortunately not on the MSDN subscription. So we click next, and then we select what data we need to study on to create our model. Power BI helps us. It selected only the fields that it thinks is relevant for our model, and I can be a little bit, how do you call it, eigenwijs, and adjust some fields. And well, let's just click them all. That's fine. And we say this is the purchase intent model. And we can say how many times do I want you to study on this model. If I want to have it quickly available, we can create a model that's only been trained for 5 minutes. You can train it for short amount of time, but it will not be the best model. So keep that in mind. If you leave it overnight and yeah, give it the most time that you have available. So it added the model, it saved it, and we can now refresh it. It's already doing that. So now it's training based on the data. Yes. If I understand your question correctly, you're asking, so I selected a lot of the fields, and can I adjust or see how each attribute is related to the model? Like, yes. Well, if I understand your question correctly, Microsoft Automated Machine Learning will do it for you. It will iterate as the same model multiple times using a different selection of fields, and even executes on different types of models iteratively. Is that what you're focusing on? All right. So let's circle around at the end of the session. The longer you train, the better the model will be. The more iterations it will do, probably. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so why I want to wait to dive into the question is Power BI will create a report showing what it did. And then maybe that will answer her question. So we will see. It's now doing the work. This will take 5 minutes, sort of less. So I already did that before the demo, and we can see right here it's the same purchase intent prediction, and we see it has been trained, and there is a training report available. So if we open that, it will show us all the information about the training procedures. So which model eventually was the best one in creating our prediction, how many iterations it did on the model. A lot of interesting information. Let me see if I can open it up on my other environment. I don't know. Yeah, I cannot open this one. Please come back in 10 minutes. Hmm. Yeah. I think we need to continue and maybe come back to this report later on. Great. Okay. So we have 3 different pages on this report. One showing the model performance, one an accuracy report, and one with the training details. So the area under the curve, something that the data scientists really understand, is 94%. And right now the probability threshold is on 0.03, but that's maybe something that you want to have at 52. And you can see then what happens to the precision and recall. So this is really valuable information for an analyst, but also for like the colleagues of the analyst, maybe the more data science related colleagues, the people that better understand models and how they perform and when they perform the best. For me, this is really interesting, but I have a hard time sometimes to really understand this. But if my model performs well, and I want to take it in production, I can say to my data scientist colleagues, this model seems to be performing really well. Maybe you can replicate this inside your favorite machine learning environment. Yeah, well, yeah, but I don't really, yeah. So the question is I'm talking about Power BI as a more self-service oriented platform, and is Power BI able, or are we able to migrate to more enterprise development environment? So the answer to that is yes. Power BI is a self-service environment. Originally, it started as an extension on Excel, adding more BI features. But it started really as a self-service tool for analysts in the business. And then over the years, they added more professional enterprise capabilities inside Power BI. So now it's not only a self-service tool, it's also an enterprise BI platform. And everything that the BI people, like I'm a BI guy for 13, 15 years, all the things that I used to do and used to create with Microsoft products are now all integrated into the Power BI platform. And this really helps the self-service, but also the intermediate. So the pro users that are tightly, how do you call that? Who work together with IT and the BI professionals in the organization to create really good models. And like I said, if you want to take this out of Power BI and inside Azure Machine Learning, right now it's not something that you can do with a click, but Microsoft is working on that. So the coming months, I don't know for sure when it will be ready, but they will add just a wizard, like an export capability. Right now, the information inside this report gives you the information that you need to recreate it manually. So it says it used a pre-fitted soft photo classifier model, and it ran 32 iterations, and you can see the value, the performance of each of those iterations, and eventually it chose the best one. And you also see some of the columns, the features, if I understand it correctly. Why don't you call it columns? But it's features when you're talking data science, and what column types they are, and if the model manipulated the columns to fit in the gaps. So a model typically cannot work with missing data, and Here you see that for these columns, the numeric columns, they used a mean value for missing values. So this model is ready, but now we want to use it. And you can do that by clicking Apply Model. Why don't you do it? Well, first, there's something here that I want to show you. There's a top predictors button, and it will show you which of the fields or features are influencing the model the most. So this already gives you some insights. I want to apply this. Let's reload the page. Okay, so you can select an existing entity to apply your model on, so to predict the new records in the new entity. I didn't load that entity yet, so I think it will work for the demo if I choose the existing visitors data. But typically you would have another data set with where you don't know if they will purchase something already. So for the demo, I created something. So I have here 30 rows with a revenue of null. So I don't know if they have predicted anything or will purchase anything, but I have their characteristics. And I want to apply this model on this data, but because of the demo switch, I don't have this file ready yet. So we will just do it on the existing data set. The new column will be the purchase intent prediction, and we will use a threshold of 0.5. If we click Save and Apply, it will iterate those rows, run it through the model, and predict whether they will purchase something or not. This won't take long, but let's start Power BI Desktop to be able to take a look at this data. So typically you would do this. You would run your machine learning model inside data flows in the web browser, and then you will go to Power BI Desktop to load that data and to add it to your existing solutions. Data in flow, so we will connect to that. It will use my credentials to see what data flows I will have access to. And this is not the right. Can I use this? Let's just see if I can open this, but this is the old demo environment. No, it's not right. Let's quickly switch. You should all have multi-factor authentication on your devices. And then we are connected. So we choose data flows again, and right now, if everything works, I have a backup plan if this still, yeah. So let's execute the backup plan. Data source settings. Global, clear permissions, all permissions, please. All right, so we are now fully switched. and we see all the data in the other accounts. And let's select the one that I prepared. So what you see is the original visitors entity and two extra tables or entities, and they have the enriched data where we predicted the purchase intent. And there's also one with explanations. So which column influenced the data more than others. So let's load them all. And again, we see the same data set, right? And then we have the enriched one. It should have the purchase intent prediction. It's right here. So we have the outcome. So Power BI scored my data set. It said, okay, this one is false, 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 true, false, true. It also has a score and an explanation where it says what influenced this prediction. And this data is also available in this data set. And the relationships based on this index. This is just a 1 to something. If we dive a little bit deeper in those explanations, we can see for each customer visit what the contribution was to the prediction. So we can see that the month is a contribution of 1, and this backs up the prediction. So for an analyst, this might not be interesting for you, but if you're trying to validate if Microsoft did a good job, this is the part that you're going to look at. All right. So while we are here, let's go back to the presentation a little bit. We have a few minutes left, so let's focus on this in the remaining time. With AutoML, you can automate using standard machine learning practices, and it's transparent, it's easy to use, and it's not only about achieving great accuracy, but easy translation to the business impact. So you're going to really use your predictions inside your solutions, and that's the big benefit about AutoML and Power BI. So it bridges the gap between traditionally different worlds of the Power BI analyst and the data science people developing models. Something about the differences between AutoML and Power BI and in Azure. I will put the slide deck on my GitHub and blog, and I put it on Twitter and LinkedIn, so you don't have to memorize this. You can read it later. But yeah, the first one is really important. The one in Power BI is focused on the business analyst. The one in Azure for data scientists, data engineers. The skills used are really different, and what you need to be able to do this is also different. So this requires Power BI Premium, and the other one an Azure subscription. I have this as well. If you want to do this yourself, be sure you have a Power BI environment and a Pro license, and that can be a trial if you don't already have that. And you need Power BI Premium. If you don't have that in your Office subscription, you can use the Azure version, but then not the MSDN subscription. So that's unfortunate. I don't know where that comes from, and if it's something that you can maybe work around, just enable it somehow, but that's something to keep in mind. And then you go to the data flow, get your data there, create a model, and go to desktop and use the output. I haven't demoed cognitive services. That's unfortunate, but we are running out of time. I only have until now, so that's not something that I can demo. I don't want to take more of your time. Microsoft documentation right here, and I believe, let's double check, this that's everything that's essential for you to know. Last slide, my contact information. And if you are using Power BI, I've got a cheat sheet. It has a lot of useful information, tips and tricks. You can download it for free. And it's also available now in 5 languages: German, Portuguese. If you want to translate it in your language, you can help me, contact me, and that's a good thing. So first, thank you, and then some Q&A time. It does work? Cool. All right. Question? Yeah. This one? You had a question?
Yes. Is it possible in Power BI to work collaboratively where there's some kind of a version control? So a lot of times we work in teams and then we use Git trackers to figure out who's done what changes. But we always struggle with figuring out whether you're working with any kind of a model or machine.
Yeah. So the question is, how can you collaboratively work with Power BI? That's now a sort of a challenge, but the best practice is using Power BI Desktop. Do as much as you can in Power BI Desktop and save the Power BI Desktop file in a locally OneDrive synced folder. So if you're using Teams or SharePoint Online, you have OneDrive locations there, and you can sync those to your laptop. And then you have the OneDrive client, you need to have installed that. It will sync all the modifications of files, and it will not download all the files at once. It has an on-demand experience, but if you do it, and like your colleague does it as well, you can save the file. It will automatically sync and be made available at the other's laptop, and so you can just say, okay, you can continue, but you need to have like a work agreement that you don't work on the same file at the same time. But the rest then will be taken care of. You don't have to email versions or do it. This is the least intrusive and most easy experience. But unfortunately, it is not the best. And Microsoft is now working on extending the capability of merging Power BI files. They're actively working on it, and I suppose in a few months we will see the results. And then you will be able to push a new version to the Power BI service and then say, okay, merge it with the existing file that's already there. Yeah, so that would be great. Okay, another question? So something, no? All right, thank you very much. Enjoy your day.